What is up YouTube? And today I'm going to be showing you guys my Ox King 10 team that I'm using to currently farm this fully on auto. Now Ox King 10 is really good to get to because Ox King will have just the best sets in the game. I do have a beginner guide if you're trying to make your first team comps for it on my channel. But the reason why 10 is so good is because starting at 10 you only get 6-star pieces, so basically the late game pieces, and as you go up to 11 you'll start being able to do the double runs like in nightmare mode, and also you'll get higher chances at 3 or even 4 substats. But 10 is like the first area of content where you can actually start farming pretty consistently for the late game pieces. 6 stars do start dropping from 7, which is going to be also a good breakpoint because you can get a lot of good upgrades from 7. 6 and below though will only drop 5-star, which is pretty much early to mid game gear, so it's not going to really be too impactful. So I recommend getting to 7 as soon as you can and eventually working your way up to 10 because getting only 6-star gear makes gearing your characters a lot easier. So if you guys are trying to farm this on 10 and are struggling, I'll show you guys my team comp and my strategy that I actually use. So basically this is the team comp that I use. This is like the meta team comp for the higher stages. The only thing is I have Evan here, and you can replace Evan with Biscuit once you get her. I just don't have her. But Evan is still very good, and the reason why is because he just gives your team a defense boost. So on level 10, the hardest thing is actually keeping your team alive. Especially my Daisy for some reason just keeps dying. So because of that, I actually geared her in a way to keep her alive, which I'll talk about. But basically, you need Charon on your team. This guy is pretty much required. You need that bleed immunity, and you also need his insane healing. I do recommend eventually upgrading his skills to buff his his healing a bit. And you do want him T6 so that his nature's healing will actually target not just I think it's 2 allies, or is it 1 ally? I think it's 1 ally, and then it goes to 3. So that's very important to do. And then I have Lena here. Lena is extremely powerful, especially if you get her to T2. Although you don't really need T2, she's mostly here to just sustain your team and give you this damage boost. Her defense reduction doesn't work because the boss has 0 defense. And then for my main DPS, I'm using Espada. Definitely a high priority character to get. This character is so broken here. She does so much damage. And I did actually get her to T2 because ever since the game launched, I've had her on my wish list. And at T2, you'll see that she gets magic resistance, which will make her a lot tankier. So very, very good. The gear I have her on isn't like the best. I just have like full damage gear. Yeah, on weak point chance, which is like, it's okay. I eventually will switch her to crit chance once I farm this a bit more. But everything else is going to be on tankier gear, as you can see, just anything to keep them alive. You want to, if you're running Evan like I am, you want to put him on full defense because his shield will actually scale with his defense, and it's very good. And my Charon is on 2 pieces only because he is just innately very tanky, and you just want him to just be as bulky as possible. Now, I will say the biggest problem I had when farming this was my Daisy. So in my opinion, Daisy is like the hardest to build for this. If you're using Black Rose, it's pretty much the same thing because they're pretty squishy innately. You can see my Daisy's health and defense is super low, 5,500 and 800, and my Espada is 6,800 and 1k. And the funny thing is, you're going to see my Daisy is on a defensive Paladin set. So what I recommend is if you're struggling to keep your AoE damage dealer alive, you can just run them on a defensive set. That's what I had to do to be able to farm this like really early. I started farming this on day 3 of the game's launch, and this is what I pretty much had to do. Of course, I still have damage stats because you still need to one-shot the first wave. But if you're finding that you're dying, you can kind of mix and match the stats that you have and like the sets to have a good balance of being able to kill the waves of mobs, the minions that he spawns, while still being able to live. And you can see my gear on her, it's not even optimized. I have flat attack on 2 of them, so definitely a lot of upgrades to be made. I could probably get into 11 and 12 soon, but for now, this is what I am using for 10. Now for the pet, I just have a random pet. He gives hit rate and an all attack. You can probably use the bird as well that I think most people have. Croa, I think Croa is actually probably going to be pretty similar in strength. But that doesn't really matter too much. The pet's like whatever in this situation because it's a very minimal difference. The biggest thing is you just want to make sure you're on protective formation. And this is going to make it so that your Espada is doing way more damage, and then your front line is going to be way tankier. And then what I recommend for skill queuing is 100% you want your Daisy to be prioritized or queued. And the reason why is because you need her to actually kill the minions instantly. And if you actually prioritize her at number 1, she will always use her skill right after the minions spawn, which is very important. And then I have my Espada go right after to make sure that she's doing as much damage to the boss. Now the other skills you can prioritize, for example, if you need more damage to kill the minions and like the waves, you can have Lena go first to give the damage boost to your Daisy or your Black Rose. Or if you're dying very quickly, you can actually delay Espadas to number 3 and then have like, you know, Evan if you're running him, or even Charon heal at number 2. But this is the setup that I found work for me, and my repeat battle's already in progress, so give me 1 second. Okay, so I just ended my Ruby farm battle to show you guys, but I want a repeat battle because instead of just queuing, you can do priority, and queuing only works like once at the start. Priority will keep working, but basically, what you want to do, or what I like doing, is I prioritize Daisy first because she can kill the first wave by herself without any like external buffs. Then I have Espada go second because she goes into the boss, and then I have Charon prioritize his Nature's Breath to heal. Now, you can also do something like this if you're running Evan. It doesn't really matter too much. The only thing is you need to have Daisy and Espada prioritized, with Daisy going before Espada. You can somewhat fit Lena's skill somewhere here, but it might mess up your run because there's going to be times where you need healing, and if her skill is up, she ends up using this instead of your team healing. So honestly, even like something like this, 1 and 2 is perfectly fine. This is probably what I'm going to do because I think I usually do this setup where I just have Daisy and Espadas prioritized. But you're going to see this is my Ox King 10 run. Pretty simple. You're going to see that the boss summons the ads here, and my Daisy will then go right into the monsters. Notice how my Daisy's always dropping low. If you get to T2 Daisy, it makes her a lot tankier because she gets the shield starting every other skill she uses. But without it, you're going to see that she's going to be pretty low. And now the second priority is going to be my Espada. She goes into the boss, does pretty decent damage. Then after that, we're going to see usually one of my characters. It's either going to be Evan's shield or Charon's big heal. I do believe it prioritizes the heal here because we are lower. So there we go. And basically at this point, you're just hitting the boss, tanking and spanking, trying to live. And once the minions spawn again, you'll see my Daisy's skill will come up right as they spawn, which is perfect timing. It's pretty much tuned like this, I think, by the devs on purpose, so that it's easier to farm on auto. So shout out to them for being kind of aware. But you can see with this comp, you know, I'm pretty sure without Evan's defense buff, I'm just going to get completely clapped because I really am struggling to keep my Daisy alive, and I have to figure out some ways to do it. But you can see right as the minions spawn here, my Daisy skill just came up. Now she'll use it, and this will just always be repeating this way. And then after, the boss will use his Petrify, I believe, or his Bleed. Not really too sure which one it is. Oh, he doesn't for some reason. Okay, my Espada goes. Ton of damage. Boss got low. And now he is like in his Enrage thing. And we should just kill the boss here pretty easily. I don't know if we'll make it to the next set of ads, but in the case that we do, our skills will be up. And just kind of taking his damage and stuff like that. So like the DPS that the boss does isn't crazy. It's just like on his turns, especially if your skill, like the skill you use like beforehand is a damage skill, for example, you can kind of get caught off guard and die, which is pretty bad. But you know, it works for me, and honestly, looking at this, I can probably go into 11 sometime soon. So yeah, I'm pretty excited about that. But you're gonna see here that the boils do spawn now. My Daisy will then kill right away after, so you can see on the third wave even that she's able to do it. It just always lines up. It'll also work the same as Black Rose. My Daisy might die here. She actually does, but it's okay because my Espada will now kill the boss. So I usually kill this in like two ad cycles, or sometimes, like as you saw on the third Espada ultimate shot. But sometimes two. It depends on if she crits or not, and if she actually, you know, gets her, what's it called, weakness hit in as well. But that is pretty much it for this video. That is Ox King. The hardest thing is keeping your Daisy alive while also having her do enough damage to kill the first wave. And also, Espada, you want her to just be on as much damage as possible. I don't even have her on a really optimal setup with 0 crit rate and just like weakness hit chance at 35. but it still works because this character is just giga busted on Ox King because you can see she scales with target's max HP. But yeah, pretty much it for this video. This is my Ox King 10 team. Not really like a full guide. I do have a guide on my channel already. You guys can check that out. But thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next video.